¿Quién es el señor Kirk Thatcher? Este agradable señor del sombrero lleva más de 30 años trabajando
en producciones que van desde Gremlins, Star Wars, Star Trek. Últimamente ha hecho cosas como The Curious Creations of Chris McConnell, coproductor y prácticamente co-creador de esta serie noventera que se llamó Dinosaurios, seguramente la recuerdan. Trabajó muy de cerca con Jim Henson durante muchísimos años, es íntimo amigo de los Muppets.
de su última película, La Mansión Hechizada, Muppets Haunted Mansion, que ya está disponible en Disney Plus. Lo conocimos hace algunos años en la Conque. Tipazo, nos llevamos muy bien, ya ha estado aquí en el podcast. El año pasado tuvimos la oportunidad de hacer una videollamada, aunque tuvo muchos problemas técnicos. No queríamos sacar esta plática hasta que tuviéramos los subtítulos completos. Por si no eres angloparlante y estás en una plataforma de audio, te invitamos a que te eches la vuelta por nuestro canal de YouTube. Vas a poder encontrar toda la plática con subtítulos. Y antes de empezar, a Kirk lo pueden encontrar en todas sus redes como Kirk R. Thatcher o en su página web www.kirkrthatcher.com. Si eres un creador, si eres un cineasta, si tienes algún proyecto y necesitas rebotar ideas que te oriente a alguien que lleva más de 30 años en la industria, el señor está muy disponible para dar consultorías. En la plática se van a dar cuenta de qué se trata esto y cómo es que lo pueden hacer. Por lo pronto, corre el auto.
Todo Studio, el podcast.
Are you pretending there's no audio on your end? Is that what you're doing?
No, I have nothing to say except hi.
Hi.
You asked the question. I just sit here and look pretty.
Well, you're doing a good job so far.
Wearing my honorary Jorge Gutierrez hat, by the way. He and I got along great. We met at Conque. We just were, boom, friends.
Yeah, he's a very, very nice person, and so are you. So
Wow.
doesn't surprise me.
You ever interviewed him?
I have not. I mean, I talked to him briefly during Conque.
Well, if you want, I'll see if I can, get you guys to meet up or, introduce you.
Oh, sure. Just tell him about me. Tell him you have all my records. I've been a long time fan.
First time, big time fan.
Last time we spoke, we pretty much covered everything. Everything. At least the people here are, super interested about like dinosaurs and the curious creations of Chris McConnell. But a lot has happened since you did the Muppets Take the O2. You did Think It's All Right, and right now you're just full of ideas, consulting people. You're always full of ideas. But one thing that what's that? Is that your idea look?
Yeah, that's my it shows that I'm thinking. Yes.
So
Ethan
no, there's something that caught my attention in particular. That's you've always been kind of a jack of all trades. I mean, you've done everything from painting to mold making to getting chemical poisoning to acting, directing, writing, and that's super fun about you, which I've been meaning to ask, because we were just talking about, I remember we even talked about movies that were happening, and that's kind of where I want to lead the conversation. I don't want you to feel like you're being interviewed, because this is more of a chat. But that's really interesting. The fact that you've done so much, I would assume that you enjoy the most writing and directing, but you're good at everything. So
You're very kind. I enjoy being creative. For me, like when I was a kid, I didn't want to be, a mold maker or a painter or whatever. I wanted to be a filmmaker. So, and that was everything. I wanted to write and act and direct and make the creatures. And, I didn't want to do it like, only me, but I just love all parts of it. I think the parts I don't like are lighting and camera tech stuff. That stuff is a little too technical for me, but everything else I like. So, I just kind of end up doing it, I suppose. Being in the right place, the right time. And it's built over 40 years. This is my 40th year in the entertainment business. So it's not like I did all of it in the first 10 years or 20 years. It's taken a long time.
Well, you started at like age 2. I mean, started very early.
I started at 18. Yeah. I mean, so that helped. Yeah, that helped. But I guess I used to joke. It's just I have ADHD, attention deficit disorder. I can't focus on one thing, and it's not entirely true, but there's some truth to it. Is that I like all of it, and I'm impressed by, jack of all trades, but also ace of none. I'm not an expert at anything, I don't think, except maybe directing Muppets because I've done that for so long. But everything else is, I'm facile. It's easy for me, or it's not easy, like it's not difficult, but I mean, I have enough skills to be able to do it. And that all just comes from an artistic eye and a lack of shame.
Which is very important.
Yeah, well, most artists are just curious and want to do stuff, and I think at least the ones I know, and I like doing all of it. I don't feel I have any specific gifts. It's just curiosity, and I had supportive parents. My mom was a teacher, and she was like, "You can do whatever you want. Just be nice to people, be a good person." And she wasn't happy about me going into the entertainment business. She wasn't mad, but she was worried because she knows it's a difficult industry with, as we say, feast or famine. You're either overworked or underpaid. You're either making too much money, or you're working too much, or you're not working at all. There's very little in between. So I mean, that's true. It's been, some of my worst years are in my 50s, which I wasn't expecting. I thought, once you get established at something, I mean, I've directed, hours and hours of stuff. You'd think that the jobs would just come in, but that's not true. So I think that's the one thing I wasn't expecting. And I was super fortunate, I think, until I was 40. So my first 22 years, I had steady work. I just went from job to job to job. And then when I became a writer-director, then suddenly I would go 6-9 months without any work. And I was, it was scary, and still is. I'm just used to it now. I'm used to not working for months and not freaking out. But you get into debt, and that's part of being an artist. People say, "What's your advice for working in entertainment?" And I say, marry someone who's rich, or with a steady job, like marry a lawyer, doctor, school teacher, a dentist, somebody who has work all the time. So, because I mean, when the two of you are working, it's great. I've never been married, so I wouldn't know what that's like. I just know that it'd be nice to have two incomes.
Right. But you could also have more people to support, and it gets.
Well, yeah, exactly. If we're both not working, the two of us, needing to get fed. But I'm just saying, that's the things that we don't talk about so much. I don't mean you and I just mean in general.
Yeah, definitely.
I wouldn't give it up, just like you. I mean, you love this stuff, and you do it, and you make it work. And so that's, I think, if there's a downside to any of it. Not that we were talking about that, but it's not a directed conversation. But it is sort of, to answer your original point, is like I do a lot of things so I can get a lot of jobs.
Exactly. You said jack of all trades, ace of none, but I would argue that it's better to have multiple skills than to just focus and want to be the best at that. Right. Without any, without broadening your abilities, because they all work somehow. I mean, being a director who knows how to act, how to handle actors, because it comes natural to you because you've been on the other side. So, with that said, creatures, all of that stuff that helps, helps you be I guess more, you have to have more empathy even towards the crew. And
absolutely. And that's one thing when I started and I worked with, some directors just treat you like the help, like do this, do that. And other people are very, very appreciative and they know the process. Some directors are actors and they've never dealt with a camera before and and that's fine too. I know good directors who trust their camera crew. They trust, the set department says, do you like this set? And they'll go like, yeah, it looks good to me. They're not super technical or care about when you really have issues is when you don't have time or money, when you're like, you got to move fast. And if you've done all these jobs, you can kind of say, oh, okay, I know a trick, or I know a way to solve this problem that isn't like, I don't know, guys, you fix it. I'll be in my, I'll be at my trailer. And so that's where I found it to be helpful. And when I worked with directors who had been artists or, writers or actors, they bring that to the table and, it's sort of like, everybody's job, but you couldn't do their job. You could help and how it works. It's like, I could take apart a car and if I had instructions and everything, I don't know if I could fix it, but I could take it apart. So it's like, you kind of know how all the parts work, but I'm not an auto mechanic. So it's like, I kind of know what the lighting guys do and the grips and having done a little bit of everything. And I've always liked being a generalist. That's why I love filmmaking. It covers so many artistic skills and crafts. It's not just sitting in a chair telling people what to do. That's ultimately what directing is. You sit in a chair, walk around, and you tell people what to do, and they do it. But that's not fun. And again, other people can do it without having any experience. I always respected people who kind of had done it at least enough. I think you said have sympathy or empathy for what you have to do when you say, oh, let's just let's just move over there. And they're like, but we lit for over here. And, if it's really important, you can say, I understand, but I think because of what's in your head, that it's not going to work and we'll eat the 45 minutes to move it. So we can do that. But if you're just on a whim because you don't really know and it doesn't matter, it's just like, oh, I like that background better. And they tell you it's going to take 45 minutes and we won't make our schedule, then you better have a good reason for it, or else then you're a jerk. And and a lot of actors and directors are jerky, or I hear stories. I've never worked with them personally, but there's some fairly famous directors who've done big movies who are notorious jerks who just don't want to work that day. So they tell a couple stories from a very notorious director who came in and didn't want to work. So he showed up late and then went, oh, I don't like this color, repaint the set. And it was a huge set. It was like 2 days. So he just got 2 days off and he, wasted 2 days. Well, he didn't waste it. The crew got paid, but they start going over budget. I've never been that way. I approach it like a tradesperson, I take some pride in what you do and that I try to be on schedule and on budget because to me, that's part of the job. And other people treat it more like a painting, like it takes as long as it takes, but you won't work a lot in this business unless you make a movie that makes $1 billion, then they'll kind of let you do whatever you want, but I don't make $1 billion.
Yeah, but at the same time, you know exactly what to expect. For instance, you wouldn't ask something unreasonable to a puppeteer or to a creature person or to an effects studio. If you need effects, if you need a creature built, you know what it takes and you know what's reasonable and what's not.
Right.
So
if you have, most of the projects I do aren't like, here's all the money in the world, go make it perfect. It's more like, well, we know most of the time Muppet movies cost twice this much, but you're going to do it for half and in a third of the time. And I'm like, okay, then you do it. And that's where that knowledge helps because your shortcuts, how you can work around things. I've had executives. This is kind of the bad example of bad filmmaking where an executive, and this was just in the script stage. I wrote a Muppet space script where they were on an alien planet and there was a huge stadium with, you know, hundreds of thousands of weird aliens. And this executive read the script. She said, well, we can't afford that. We can't build a stadium with millions of aliens. I'm like, it's a matte painting with colored dots. I mean, it's the cheapest thing in the world. It's cheaper than building a puppet because you guys, you know, the puppets are very well built and a lot of technology. So we could have, you know, 4 or 5 puppets for a close up, and the wide shots just colored dots going, you know. And she's like, oh, well, you know, you should have put that in the script. I'm like, I'm not going to explain how to do filmmaking in the script because then people would think I'm speaking down to them like they're idiots.
Exactly. It's not a writer's job to explain how it's going to be made, but what the story is.
Yeah, but I did write it knowing that
you could pull it off.
That's cheaper than saying there's 30 aliens sitting on a bench, you know, giving, you know, like the Russian judges. That would cost a lot, but a crowd of 1 million or 100,000 is cheap. And so, I mean, I think she got mad at me because I kind of embarrassed her in a meeting, but it's not my, you know, and I wasn't trying to be mean. I was just like, no, that's not a problem. The same executive was like, well, then you wrote all these scenes in this space station. And some other guys had come in and rewritten my script and they put it all on this planet. And she said, will you put it back on a space station? I said, yeah, because that's 3 walls. A space, did you see Star Wars? Death Star is the same freaking 3 walls and hallways with a couple different sets. They want a planet, like that's expensive. Either it's all green screen or it's all these giant sets. Either way, it's way more expensive. Well, you know, she got very upset again. But I'm like, no, I wrote this with a Muppet budget in mind, not a Marvel movie. So again, knowing what your budget is or what you want your budget to be, it's helpful to know how all the tricks of the trade, you know?
Definitely. And it shows. It ultimately shows because, you know, I think not only, and that's the clearest example I have in my mind because of my background, yeah. But it's not specific to Guillermo del Toro, for instance, in which if he has a $10 budget, he wants to make it look like 1,000. Right. And if he has 1,000, he wants to make it look like 1 million. Not by abusing people or overworking them, but through creativity. And right. I think that's something that's very embedded in for instance, in the Muppet culture. Yeah. In which, you know, at some point, Jim had this eureka moment in which he said, okay, I only have to worry about, you know, from the waist up or from the Muppet's point of view up. And the rest is, you know, fair play. And I can do whatever I want down there to make it look good on screen. And I think that's part of something that whomever has done this kind of work that you do and that you've done over your career, I think that's a huge advantage that, you know, your limitations and you know, transposing that into the real world, like directing live action without Muppets. Right. You're it's, you know, it gets broader, but at the same time you're like, okay, I can do more. Right. But I know where the screen ends, and I know that's all I have to focus on. Right?
It's like the classic phrase, pick your battles. Know where to spend your money. Another thing was like I written something with a lake or, you know, a pond of water. And they were like, well, we can't, we're going to shoot on a soundstage. We can't make a big pond. I'm like, you don't have to. You can make it 4 inches deep and just lay plastic out. And because if it's dark and you're never on this way, you're always this way, water looks the same at a obtuse angle. And the way you light it and you make it black, it's fine. And they're like, well, but still you have to put water on set. I'm like, well, yeah, you do have to. I mean, you could also make it a green screen and make it but that's what I mean. There's always 10 different ways to do something. So yeah, I mean, it's to bring it into the world of creature effects. I remember when I first met Rob Bottin, he was doing The Howling. It hadn't come out yet. I was 16, 17, and we met actually by accident. I mean, just by fate. So I went over to his shop and he was showing me the Howling thing, and he was showing me the teeth, the teeth of the actors wear to make their teeth, you know, on camera stretch into fangs. And it looked amazing. Uh-huh. How are you doing? What is that? It was just foam latex. It was just a foam rubber tooth that he painted the right color to match the actors, and it fit like on a denture or like a what do you call it, a retainer. And so it just sat over and then they would take their tongue and just press up, and there was just little wires that would, pivot and press down in these rubber teeth, and the teeth would stretch like fangs. It looked amazing. And it was a cheap gag, but other people might have do it, and this was before digital, but we'll do it with digital. We'll make, some sort of trick expanding dental acrylic, because your mind goes, well, it has to be a hard tooth. Just make it out of rubber, and it looked great. So, I mean, that to me was kind of like that kind of thinking always impressed me, is like, what's the simplest way to get an effect or a trick? And especially if it's on camera for 3 seconds, it's really just like done. And like, you're not having time to go, wait, that's not a shiny, and you put a little gloss on it so it looks shiny. So anything like that. I mean, we do it all the time with the Muppets, where we have a stunt Muppet, like you'll have a Muppet fly across the room, and it's just a stuffed one, and then the puppeteer is where it lands. So we throw it across the room and it lands here, and then we have the other puppet with the puppeteer right there, so it looks like it goes boop, and it pops up, and you're like, oh, your mind doesn't go there. So it's lots of cheap parlor tricks.
Wow, that's amazing. You did manage to make me lose my train of thought with that Botine story, but but then again, I mean, it's that's the beauty of it. The creature effects part is you don't get two jobs that are exactly similar. I mean, look at Gremlins, for instance. The wide difference between and two of the effects people I respect the most, which are Chris Wallace and Rick Baker. They both did terrific jobs at Gremlins 1 and Gremlins 2, and yet they're so different, and I'm sure the way Chris approached it is way different than the way Rick approached it, and the way someone else would approach it if Chris Columbus ever finishes his script and gets it funded, if that ever happens.
Well, it was also budget. I think for Gremlins 1, we had $1 million to make all the Gremlins. On a Gremlins 2, I think Rick had $10 million.
Wow. Yeah, no wonder. No wonder there's so many.
He was Rick Baker, and there were so many, and they were all different. Our Gremlins were all the same, essentially. It was the same sculpt. We added, the spiked hair for Spike. Everything else, there was just a factory. Yeah. I know, that's a good paint job, too. That's the right colors. Some people have been painting him more like bright green, and they weren't bright green. In Gremlins 2, they were, but in Gremlins 1, they were that kind of dirty brown green. Yeah, so budget, again, talking about your budget, we made a little gremlin factory and just kept producing the same creature over and over again with different mechanics for different, gags, different scenes, but most of them had at least a blink and a soft mouth for puppeteering. And, then others had different mechanisms, but the bulk of them were just hand puppets, essentially, with, rod arms and classic Muppet technology with latex instead of felt.
And it worked beautifully.
And it has a campiness to it. There's a kind of a fun, like, I'm going to pretend that looks absolutely real. I mean, they obviously were there, and they had a realism to them, but they were kind of, caricature, which was what was fun about it, especially in 2. In 2, they were like living.
Yeah, but it's part of the illusion and the fact that it's actually on set and you can feel it. You can, as an spectator, you can feel it. I was talking about this recently. The fact that E.T. Stands the test of time. That when you're looking at E.T., you're looking at him right in the eye. You're not thinking about a puppet. You're thinking about the character. And the same thing goes with, the Gremlins. As campy as they were, they're creatures, and they're here to kill you and eat you. And that's, that's beautiful. It happens to me all the time. Whenever I see a puppet, even though the puppeteer is right next to it, I address the puppet. You know, my eyes lock in the puppet size, and that's part of the beauty of it. And you know, you can talk about, I don't know, killer clowns from outer space, for instance. That, you know, the mouths were, and the Kyoto brothers are, you know, terrific, but it's part of it. And you know, Critters. I'm sure you've heard about Critters, a completely original idea.
Absolutely.
And you know, the mouths were like so stiff, but at the same time it's like, yeah, okay, I'll buy it. These furballs are here to kill me, and you know, Leo DiCaprio is actually in danger. And you know, I don't know, there seems to be a bigger appreciation for puppets lately. And I have this theory out there that they are making a comeback, you know, with the Dark Crystal coming up, and with you know, Labyrinth in the works for, like, I don't know, at least 3 years so far. But it is in the works. It's still, you know, it's being talked about. I'm sure you know about this. You know, with Columbus's Gremlins 3, I think they are coming back. And the beauty of the puppets and these kind of creatures is they don't need to look real. They don't need to look photorealistic, because they are not, you know, you cannot compare them with a creature makeup. It's a lot harder because you have to make it believable. You have to make the skin texture, and even if it's an alien, you have to ground it in the real world and have some natural understructure, or, you know, some logic behind why is there a hole in there? Oh, that's where it breathes, and, you know, things like that. But when it comes to puppets, you have such a free realm of possibilities. So that kind of gives you a lot of freedom when it comes to designing, and when it comes to looking at it on screen. It's like, yeah, it's a puppet. Moving on. This is the story, right?
Right. I mean, I think it's like, you know, you're saying the fun of it is you're kind of playing along. I mean, when it's the Muppets, nobody thinks they're real, like, but they're still real. Something like Christine.
I'm gonna stop you right there. They are. They are real.
They are real.
Go on.
But yeah, but like Christine McConnell, like that's the kind of thing I like, where it's kind of a stylized creature, but it looks like if you saw it run across the road, you wouldn't immediately go, well, that's a puppet. I brought this along to show, because this was one of the creatures I designed that got me my job with Jim Henson. Oh, hold on, I gotta.
You know, you have the blurry background, and it's not.
Trying to get.
Oh, that's. Yeah, I remember that. It's kind of a cockroach, right?
Yeah, an alien cockroach.
Yeah, it's
genetically engineered cockroach.
And I've seen that with your designs. You have. I was subconsciously doing a study on the way you design eyes and mouths. And there's a constant, but it, like, I would say it's your style, but
to me it just makes sense. But everyone else.
No, but it makes the creature, and there are two very important things when it comes to Muppets or puppets: the eyes and the mouth. The mouth is what's moving, and the eyes is what the spectators link with the character is. And your eyes and your mouth are very trademark Thatcher. So I just wanted to get it out there, because I found myself realizing that a couple days ago, and I was like, yeah, that's him. But go on, sorry.
Oh, no,
that's beautiful.
Not intentional. It's just, you know, you design the way you design. Like, you know, Chris Wallace had his look, and Rick Baker, his stuff has his look, and every sculptor with ZBrush, their stuff has a style. I always try. I mean, where Jim and I connected, and why I worked for him, was he liked the fact that all my characters had, this is what he told me, had a personality baked into the design. A lot of times with creatures, they're just, you know, it's the classic T-pose, and they're, you know, they just look blank. And then you have to do a lot to give it personality. I mean, even the Gremlins they looked mischievous. That was baked into their design. They had that kind of that mouth and that that face, even when they weren't moving, it was that. So to me, that's very important. And it's also a shorthand with the audience. Now, something like Alien, the classic Alien design, or even Predator, they're hard to read, but that's what makes them alien, and that what makes them scary. I haven't typically done very many scary monster designs. Everything I do is a character, usually with dialogue, who's acting, So I try and bring that personality to the design. I did design some stuff for the movie House. I don't know if you ever saw that. I always wondered in Spanish it was just casa.
Called Casa?
Was it?
I think it's called La Casa of something, the house of something. And I when we talked about House last time we spoke, and
I think it's one of the 2 times I.
And I promised myself I would look it up.
Fine. I designed stuff for it, but I was just only brought up because it was the few times that I designed something scary or fun scary. It was still kind of fun, and they had personality. And I'd done other scary designs that never got made for other projects that just never happened. But I also feel that comedy and horror, or to make someone laugh and to scare someone, it's very close. It's a very similar techniques. It's just a different kind of accent, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, you want to focus on what you want to focus, and you want to sell what you want to sell, depending on.
Yeah, it's that surprise. The comedy is a surprise that makes you laugh. Horror and sometimes, horror in general is a surprise that makes you go, startles you. But they're still doing a surprise. And so to me, they're very similar, even in design aesthetics. It's like all the things I do with eyes and mouths, you take that away. Don't do that.
I always, yeah, because it makes you care for the character, and you don't want to care for the the monster. It's actually House. Just so you know, it was it premiered according to my data on 85 in the States, but it got to us in Mexico on 87, and it was called La Mansión, like the manor.
Okay.
Or House, subtitle, the House of Horror. That's House La Casa del Horror, or La Mansión, it was called in 87. But yeah, it was just House for you guys.
Yeah. Yeah. So but thank you. I guess that's good that my designs look like my designs. I don't have to sign them. People know. You would think your sometimes your work goes unnoticed, and I talk about this all the time with creature people that are like me coming up and things like that. I understood early on that we're just a piece of the puzzle. And you have to be there, not in order to be known or to be seen, because most of the time, your work is seen for a couple seconds, like the Howling Teeth. Right.
But if you help tell the story, your job is done. Yeah. Not only because you got paid, but because you can say, okay, that was my job, and I'd like to think the end result would be different without it. Like I contributed something, right? So and that's a very chill approach that I take to this kind of work, because it if it happens to ADI in the Thing reboot, it happens to everyone, and you're no one to whine about it. You're just roll with it, do your job, and you have to be there because you love it. You have to be, it has to be grounded on passion.
Nobody goes into the art side of filmmaking to get rich. You have to love it, and also go like, I don't want to do anything else, because there's a lot easier jobs and definitely steadier work, But I mean, artists are all weirdos, and I mean that in a good way. Like I don't like hanging out with normal, boring people. I want to hang out with nice, interesting people. And artists are not. If they're anything, they're interesting. I'll take the blur.
Breaking news: Kirk Thatcher hates you and will hit you. You normies.
Yes, me and my cockroach and Frankenstein. Frankenstein and I.
Oh, the blurry background is gone. So if you can put up the cockroach again, that would be lovely.
Sure.
That's beautiful. What is it made out of? Is it resin?
I sculpted it and just did it. I did it in dental stone, just hydrostone. So it weighs about 8 pounds, but it's also indestructible. Yeah, it's indestructible. I've had it. I made it in 1985, so it's 35 years old.
You sculpted it in dental stone, so that's all standing.
Oh no, I sculpted in clay. I did an alginate mold
you cast it up and.
I did an alginate and then just poured a plaster of dental stone and then painted it.
Oh, awesome!
Yeah, it was just cheap. I wasn't, I didn't have to use resin. I didn't have to catalyze anything. I did them in like 2 days. I sculpted it and cast it, and then probably with including so molding, sculpting, casting 2 days, and then painted another day. So it was like a 3-day job. I want to do more. It's so much fun.
Well, I would assume you have time now.
Yeah. What's funny is
you're stuck at home.
I don't have a shop. I don't have and I've had two.
You don't need a shop. Most of Tour Effects' work comes right out of here. This is the workbench.
I want to get plaster in my carpeting. No, I have a friend who's got a huge shop, so he said, "Just come over and do it." But then I have to drive somewhere.
Right. No, and that's one of the main reasons that whenever the possibility has come to rent up a shop or have some space for myself, it's like I won't do it unless it's absolutely necessary. If I can do it at home, I will do it at home. And some of this is like before all this thing, it was like, okay, I'm gonna be baking foam latex all day. So, and I tell my wife, you might want to take the kids out for a while because it's going to smell kind of funky in here. I'm not sure if it's good for the kids. So, you might want to go to the park or something.
Wait,
but
do it in the oven that you cook your meals in?
No, I don't. I don't know. Here's a very Mexican way to approach it, which a lot of people in Mexico ask me about. I'm like, you can come over whenever you want. This is a great technique. Tamales, right?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Have you seen the pots tamales are made in?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Okay, you can use that as a foam oven.
Right.
I don't cook my foam latex. I steam it, and it works.
Yeah, it would because it keeps the moisture too. You don't burn it.
Exactly. It hardly ever burns. I've had problems. It takes some tweaking because sometimes it's undercooked or there's a lot of moisture in air pockets and things like that, or moisture pockets. But it works. And the first time I remember my friend Neftali Zamora taught me that. He's in Mexico City, and he said I do it in a pot, in a tamale pot. I'm like, you're kidding me. So are you telling me I don't have to build a foam latex oven and I can just buy my kit and mess around? He's like, I've been doing it. I have an oven, but
That's fantastic.
Like, okay, I'm going to try that. And I've been doing it ever since.
That's artistic creativity. That's great.
Exactly. And like I said, that's a very Mexican way to do it because I don't want to use my oven. I'm not Stan Winston. Matt turned out all right, but according to him, his stories are like, yeah, my dad used to bake foam latex in our kitchen oven. I'm like, and you don't have 3 eyes. That's amazing.
Well, now, but tamale ovens tamale pots can be really big too. Yeah. That's
yeah. I've done full head. I have at least 2. One of them fits in my regular stove, and I can bake face appliance or little pieces. I can bake them there, hands and things like that. But if it's a cow, I have a big one, but it doesn't fit my stove, so I have to get a burner and put it outside of the house, and I get the big pot in there, and I do the cow. And the last time I did this, the whole wall was stained with
latex.
Yeah, no, not latex, but the stove was not super high end,
Right.
I mean, the pot was not super high end, so
Oh.
all the black thingy that was burning, it stained the wall, and my wife wasn't happy, but we got it done.
Perdón por la interrupción, ahorita le seguimos con la plática. Nada más para recordarles que si no están suscritos, si es la primera vez que siguen este bonito podcast, pues bienvenidos, adelante, pásenle. Allí hay un montón de episodios con los que se pueden divertir. Nuestras redes son @torofxstudio. Esto es @torofxstu, DIO en todos lados. Y este bonito podcast sale todos los martes y todos los viernes en la plataforma que ustedes elijan. Si lo quieren ver en video, también está en YouTube. Y dicho esto, pues sigamos con el episodio.
I've had there was this production that called me for a video clip. They wanted a heart that would beat on camera, and they called me up on Thursday, and this thing was gonna shoot on Tuesday, but it was outside of the city, so they needed it by Monday.
Right.
I was like, and I think Steve Johnson said, in FX, you say yes, and then you figure out how to do it.
Right. That's
knowing your limitations and knowing you can pull it up somehow, but without really knowing how.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, yeah, we can make it work. So what I ended up doing, of course, designing animatronics was completely out of the table. It was, definitely not happening. So what it ended up being was I sculpted a heart. I did a mold and all, and it was essentially a latex mask, right? That was a heart, and I glossed it and made it look like it was shiny and wet. And the mechanics were a balloon with a tube that would run off camera. So and it wasn't me, so I had to teach them how to operate it because it was going to shoot outside, and they didn't have the budget to take me there. So you would blow on the balloon, and fortunately, since the heart on the inside was not flat or symmetric, when you would blow up the balloon, it would pop different places, and when you let the air go, it comes back at different times. So the chambers would move separately.
Oh, smart.
Yeah, and it looked super cool, and I loved the way it looked. I was like, oh, I made it. It wasn't like, oh yeah, I'm the man. No, it was like, oh, I'm not gonna get fired.
Well, it's funny.
But
You said, yeah, it works. I mean, that's it. All it has to do is work for one day.
And for a couple seconds, and you know what? I had a very Mike Wazowski moment there, because when the video clip premiered on YouTube, I was like, oh, I'm finally gonna see my heart. And it comes up at the end of it's like the plot twist. Like it talks about, it's very campy, but the song is about a heart, like I gave you my heart and things like that. And the singer has this box, which he gives to the girl. And then the girl opens up the box, and there's his actual heart beating, right?
Oh, jeez. Well,
Yeah, exactly. But right when she opens, yeah, right when she opens, and it's got like 4 million views, and no one knows about me, but yeah, it worked. But right when she opens the box, the YouTube cards come up, like related videos. I had a very Mike Wazowski moment, like, I cannot believe this. I'm in the video.
well,
it is what it is.
it's what's funny. First of all, what you said, Steve Johnson. So Rob Bottin was a friend. Is a friend. I haven't seen him. He kind of hermited up, but we were friends. And I remember I was on the set of the movie Fight Club because David Fincher and I have been friends since ever. And Rob was there, and he's like, "Hey, what are you doing here?" And I'm like, "I'm friends. I've known Fincher since we were 18 years old." He's like, "Oh man," I said, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Oh, I told him I could do this." He kind of called me over away from where Dave was. He's like, "Come here." Said, Dave wants me to do this impossible shot where a guy, not Brad Pitt, what's the other guy? Ed Norton holds a gun in his mouth, and he wants to do a slow-mo where the cheeks blow out, and you see the light come in, and you see the bullet exit and take like part of his ear off. all in one shot. He wants to do it in a slow-mo 360. I'm like, wow, how are you gonna do that? He goes, I don't know. I just said yes, and I'm trying to figure it out. and then later, Dave, I was asking Dave, the movie came out, I saw the premiere, and he said, yeah, Rob totally lied. That he could do it, and Dave was mad because he had to end up using a cut and some video effects to cover it over. I thought that was pretty funny. But yeah, I mean, that's it.
It ended up being half practical, half digital, because it looked digital in the movie.
Yeah, that's what I mean. He had to cover it up with digital tricks, but it was practical and digital because they couldn't do it all in one. But
there you have it, folks. Rob Bottin.
Yes, and figures
feeling
out
the way we feel all the time.
But the thing is about this business, particularly physical effects and creature effects, is like you said, no job is ever the same, and 90% of the time you're inventing how to do it. And even if someone else has done it, because you don't talk to them, they might have figured it out, but you figure out a different way. And that's the fun of it. You're being an inventor. It's like Leonardo da Vinci is the father of all effects artists, because he would invent stuff and then figure out how to make it, even if it was a model. But we were all creating things that have never been seen before. That's what's cool. That's why we like it, and why the audiences like it. Like, I've never seen anything like that. And that's the attraction.
And even if it has been seen before, or if they're asking you for something that they saw in another movie, but they have like 1% of that movie's budget, you have to make it work with what you have.
Right.
But that's super interesting. But back to what I was originally trying to dig into, you being multi-talented. And I've talked to people like some friends in the comic book business, or things like that, that are one specific friend comes to mind, which is El Mudo Vasquez, Salvador Vasquez. He is a very good writer, and he is a very good drinker, and and he loves comic books, and he managed a way to drink professionally and draw professionally, because he does art for beer, for breweries. So he managed to match them both and do what he loves, drinking and drawing.
Right.
But I first knew his work through some comics that he wrote, and then I saw him draw, and I was like, dude, why aren't you drawing more? He was like, and he has the talent, but his passion lied at least at that point in writing and in doing something else. So in your case, I would say, why aren't you sculpting more? Why aren't you doing more Muppet stuff or more puppet stuff? But at the same time, you're a very prolific writer and director. So what do you like the most? You said, the last few years have been kind of a rough road, etc. But you're nowhere near done. You have at least 30 good business years. So what are your plans, or what would you love to do? Like, if you had unlimited opportunities, and you could do something, what is it that you
I think it would
want
be
to pursue?
Write and direct my own project. I mean, I've always done I've done Muppet stuff and other people's scripts. I'd written some Muppet scripts. They didn't get made. I would have loved to direct them. To have that, not total control, but just sort of everything I've done is somebody else's creature idea. Christine McConnell was pretty close, because that was just she and I. That was a collaboration, and everything's a collaboration. So that was fun, because I got to write 4 of the 6 episodes and direct all of them. So, that kind of thing, just more of that. In a perfect world, would have done 3 seasons of Christine McConnell. So, write and direct, and, have a creature too that I designed some weird comedy. I mean, I'll, even do this. This project that this guy's from, I would love to do that. It's sort of like, creatures and humans in the same world in the future. So I mean that, it's tricky to sell the idea and then get it made. I'm trying, though. That's what I do. I go out there with things like that and go, hey, here's my idea. So, and the good news is there's more and more avenues for those kind of shows, and there's so much more. What's the right word? Avenues, I guess. They're, places need shows. They need these, and I'm not Jim Cameron. I don't need $200 million to make a show. I could do a show with these guys. Give me $8 million. I'll give you 12 episodes, which sounds like crazy, but it's not just two people. It's like 12 characters and two humans. It's Star Wars size, but
right. No, but that's perfectly reasonable. I was going to kind of tap into that. I'm a very optimistic person most of the time. Depends on who you ask. but I feel like a lot of things have been made and have gotten made and seen the light thanks to the people. And ultimately, we are more and more, you see people cutting out the middleman and just talking directly to the people, like a Kickstarter or things like that. Like, hey, do you want to see this? Okay, then put your money where your mouth is, and we'll make it happen. Screw the the studios or whatever. And then it happens, and then you have things like the Snyder Cut, in which the people were like, no, this is not fair, and we're going to make it happen, and it's going to happen, regardless of whether the movie sells or not. It's more of a we're hearing the people, and I think those kind of things kind of bring a new light towards creativity on things that are not necessarily popular or proven, because most of the things that we love right now were not sure bets. At some point, Cameron bought the rights to or made Gremlins happen, and it became a cultural landmark. And the same thing happened with Star Wars. No one thought it was going to be as huge as it was. And right now, Star Wars is a whole different story. But it takes some believing, some leap of faith to make things happen. Exactly. So that's what it takes, just believe in the project and be willing to, I don't know, maybe eat crap for a couple years, eat crap for a season, but then you'll see it, I'm talking to you, Netflix guys.
Well, it's funny. Christine McConnell, I don't know if I told you last time, but the one question they had after the first season was, can you do it for less money? And we did it for $1. I mean, it was so cheap. Yeah, the other thing is, the more you do, the cheaper you do it, the more you can usually own of it. If someone's giving you $1 million to do something, as opposed to here's 300,000, it's all depends on your skill set, and if you have friends you can call favors from, and all that too.
Yeah, definitely. But I don't think it's well, at some point Netflix was like the gateway for movies or series that wouldn't otherwise get made.
Right.
And it has happened, and it has been a stepping stone for a lot of creators out there. But it's not like the holy grail. There are, like you said, other avenues, and if you have the time and the skill, and I'm not talking about you specifically, but you put up a show on YouTube and it becomes huge, and like, okay, you want to see it get made properly, then bring in the cash and we'll make it happen, and you can own it. You can own the reruns and maybe give me the residuals, but I think those areas can be explored without adhering to maybe corporate guidelines in which, okay, if you're this kind of show, you get to do this with this kind of budget. It's like, no, I mean, the fact that people consume it doesn't mean that they won't consume this other thing, which can potentially be a lot bigger. And
that comes down to the executives having some faith or taking a risk. And the more money things make, the less risks people want to take. I mean, and that's frustrating. But the other thing is, a lot of artists, when you give them a ton of money, their stuff gets really bloated. You know, I mean, look at Gremlins 2. They just threw all this money at it, and it wasn't better. It was different. It was fun, but it was just like, oh, let's just keep making stuff and throw it in there. And I had friends who made the big spider gremlin. They spent months on it. It was gorgeous. You ever seen the stills of it? And it's on camera for about 8 seconds before it bursts into flame. It was badly lit. The guy put way too much. I mean, Rick has a whole story about it, but the pyro guy said, oh, yeah, it'll be fine. And it practically blew the cameras over. And so all that work just was for naught, really. I mean, you see it for seconds. It could have been made out of, chicken wire and foam rubber.
Sometimes that's why sometimes the behind the scenes footage is more interesting than the movie itself, you know. And unfortunately, that's another thing. Fortunately, if that happened now, you know, people could have the artists themselves could have posted on Instagram, you know, the pictures of the sculpture, of the paint job, and things like that. And these are the things you didn't see. Right. And then you will get to watch people revolt and ask and tell the directors or whomever made that decision, why wasn't this shown on the movie?
Have you seen Rick Baker's giant 2-volume book? That's what's in there. All these creatures and stuff that never got seen. Yeah. What? Yeah.
But you know, and once again, it happened to Baker.
I know.
Who am I? Who am I to complain if it happens to Rick Baker? And I'm sure it happened to Dick Smith all the time, and even Lon Chaney or whomever, you know.
Every effects artist and designer has the story about, so we had these 3 designs, and this one was amazing, and they said, no, just go with a really simple bad one. And then you see, you know, now with all the art of books, you see the designs, you're like, why did they pick what they picked? This is so much better. But yeah.
But ultimately, it comes around to the people, and fortunately, we have the voice now as fans and spectators to tell, to speak out as an audience and say we want more of this. You know, we didn't particularly like this, and not as a Simpsons comic book guy just complaining about everything, but overall, you know, speaking out and saying, hey, this was not cool. It used to be the home video sales, like maybe it didn't do so well on on theaters, but when it came on home video, it was a huge hit. That was the way of the fans speaking out. Now we can do it even before the movie comes out, like it happened with Sonic the Hedgehog movie. Like, we don't like that design. Why are you doing that? Don't. and then they completely redesigned it.
I wish it happened more with the Star Wars movies.
Oh, that's a whole different animal. But so back to let me see if I get this straight. This is a glorious time to be alive and to be a creator, because if I'm not mistaken, you, wherever you're listening or seeing this podcast or this video, you can reach out to Kirk Thatcher and PayPal or Venmo or whatever some money, and have him consult on your project and get it made.
I can't get it.
Get it made is up to you, but if you want the experience and knowledge and advice from a pro who's been around the block and who knows how the cookie crumbles, you can do it.
I've crumbled a lot.
Am I correct?
Yeah. I have a website now. www.kirkthatcher.com. So just my name, all lowercase, one word, but put the R in the middle, Kirk R. Thatcher. And I mean, I'm selling autographs and original art and prints, but also I'm consulting. It's either a half hour or hour, And if it's just a chat like this, there's a certain rate. But if you want me to read a script or watch, a production or something, it's a little more money because it's more of my time before we spend the hour. But yeah, it's still reasonable. I've had friends in the business say, "Wow, you're doing this for way too cheap." And I've had other people who, usually artists are like, "Wow, that's expensive." So, but yeah, I mean, I finally decided, because a lot of people, particularly after a Creature Shop challenge, would ask me a bunch of questions, and usually it was like at a convention or something, and want to talk about their project, which usually convention's not the right place to do it. And I said, well, I'm not
exactly.
Yeah. So I'm at home, just working on my own projects, but I'd like to make a little money. So I just went, all right, I'm going to start this consulting business. It's been fun. I think I've done about 10 consultations, probably, probably even like 5 hours and 5 half hours. And 2 of them have been return customers. They liked it and they've come back. So it's been great and really fun for me. When I was working with Jim Henson, we used to have these brainstorms all the time. Sometimes it was just he and I. Sometimes it'd be 4 or 5 of us. Sometimes it'd be 20 of us. But we get together and basically play creative football, or just throw the ball around or the idea around. And there was no bad ideas. You could never say, no, that's not going to work. You'd say, yes, or yes, but it was always yes. And we'd all
kind of like an improv class.
Exactly like improv. Yeah, yes, and. So I've got an idea about talking football, and you go, and his best friend is a basketball. Like, oh, that's fun. What if it's a show about, a sports team, but the sports team is made of the sports equipment, and then it goes off from there, and you get this cornucopia of ideas. And also, as somebody who works alone, I don't have a writing partner all the time. I mean, on Muppet stuff, I typically did, but when you're working on something by yourself for a long period of time, it's really nice to get another perspective, particularly from someone who's done it before. And that's where I come in, as I've essentially helped sell or created 4 TV shows over the last 30 years. And, pitch shows and written and directed and all that. And so I kind of know something about it. It doesn't have to be puppets or creatures, but that's typically what people come to me for, because that is a special animal. So yeah, it's been fun because I love that brainstorming. So people come to me with their idea, and I don't tell them what to do with it. I actually don't tell them anything. I talk to them about, what's your idea? What do you want to do with it? Where are you trying to sell it? And then how do you want to make it? And depending on if they have an hour, we get into production costs and how do you pitch it? And who do they think would be interested? And a couple of them I've even said, I think this person would be interested. Here's their email. And then they go off and try and sell it. So I love that. I miss that. And
I love the fact that you're doing this, because it's not, and when you say, if I have to read a script, it's not like you're not signing an autograph or, doing something out of the blue. You're getting invested in the project, right, as if it was yours, and giving your perspective as if the script came from Henson's office or someone else's. Like, this is, I mean, guys, seriously, this is your chance if you're gonna get another perspective and a professional perspective. And not because you're my friend, I mean it. Like, this is a real opportunity here. Like, make the most out of it. I mean, most creative people are like, oh well, with this situation there are no calls and there are no productions, and we're stuck here. But this is your chance, which you wouldn't otherwise get, because Kirk would be in a jet with some high-end people. Yeah, exactly. But right now he's at home and he can take your call and he can read your script.
I'm home in my messy office. Yeah, but I love doing it. I love creative brainstorming, so it's fun for me. It's not like some ways it's not like a job. I mean, it's fun. I love playing around with creative people about, whatever, either production issues or creative ideas. It's both. And some people have just started with a half hour, I don't read anything. They just want to talk to me for half an hour. And then, because that's the cheapest. And then if they go, oh, okay, your ideas are, I want to come back to you now that we've talked, and then we'll do an hour, or I'll send you my script, or I'll work on it and send it to you. And that makes a lot of sense too, because I understand if you go like, oh crap, you're going to read my script and it's going to cost this, but I can just talk to you. You can tell me your idea, and we can talk and see if it makes sense for you to. Because I'm not trying to take money from anybody unfairly, just you.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this costed a fortune. I hope.
Yeah,
you guys
well,
enjoy
I mean,
it.
look, I wore a shirt. I put on a hat and a clean shirt, so they're right there.
No, but seriously, man. I mean,
it's dollars, not pesos, right? We covered that.
We'll sort that out later. No, but I really do mean it. It's I mean, coming back to the optimistic side of it, we're getting opportunities that we wouldn't otherwise have. So and I have a lot of creative friends that are like starting, and I always come back to the same answer when and maybe it's out of privilege that I say just start doing it, because I'm not interested in selling courses or things like that. It's like and going to conventions where I met you, and like I didn't sell a damn thing in there. I went to have fun and to be with my people and talk and meet people of my own breed, like monster fans and creature fans and things like that. And I had a blast, and I would have gone. Don't tell this to the organizers, but I would have gone even if they didn't pay my tickets to get in, or my hotel or whatever. I would have done it anyway. So my point is, whenever they ask me how do I start, or do you guys sell courses, I'm like, I'm not going to charge you for teaching what I know. If you don't ask me to go to your house and teach you, if you want tips, you get those for free. Just start doing it. And if you get stuck and you want to know where to buy something or how to do something, I can give you what I think I know. Right. It's not like this is not the Bible, this is not the way it's done, but I can give you my tips. But in this case, in your particular case, I mean, you have an idea and you want to discuss it with someone who's, I don't have to sell you. Your work speaks for itself, and you're the sweetest person ever. So, guys, seriously, talk to this man.
Very nice. Yes, but I don't speak Spanish, so you need a translator.
Oh yeah. You know what? I mean this. I mean this on the record. If you want to do this and you don't speak English, I'll be your translator for free.
That'd be awesome.
I mean it. Swear to God.
That's awesome. Yeah, because I mean that's I don't speak Spanish fluently. I can, un poquito. So if there are listeners that only speak Spanish, I'm happy to work with you, or if they have a family member or somebody, that'd be great.
So that's great, man. I mean, and if you're not interested in creating something, you're more of a fan, you can always get El Nene Consentido and El Nene Consentido print signed. Oh,
signing Greta's, and the dinosaurs just came out. The Funko Pop Dinosaurios.
Really?
Same. Yeah.
I gotta get me some of those. I wish they came out as NECA figures. I think I have a lot of Funkos. I got this beauty here, signed by the myth, the legend, Mr. Kirk Thatcher, and Mr. Chris Wayless.
Come on, that's like a double whammy.
Yeah, exactly. I got this, but there's some designs, some things that I think the Funko Pop just doesn't cover it. Like I'm a huge Terminator fan,
right?
And I don't have a Terminator Funko because I want everything in Bolt.
Right.
Like,
wait 1 second. I'll go get a couple of the Funko dinosaurs.
Oh yeah. Show them.
Just edit this out. Oh, I'm getting them now.
Una vuelta por los Funkos más tarde.
Well, that was fast.
Yeah. There's Earl. And here's Nene Consentido
Oh.
with his scary all black eyes.
Yeah, that's kind of a Funko trademark, and that's another thing. It's got the Kirk Thatcher size originally, and the Kirk Thatcher's mouth.
What's weird is he looks possessed. He looks like demonic Nene. And they've got Robbie. Wait, there you go.
Cool.
And they gave
Dude,
him
it's so detailed.
Yeah, they're pretty good. And then Fran, the mama. Charlene.
Nice.
Is Charlene in Spanish?
Charlene, yeah.
Yeah.
They're all the same. Or
Yeah.
all, only the baby is bebe.
Yeah. They're Nene. Nene.
Yeah. Awesome. So
I'm signing those. The problem is it's expensive because I have to buy it, sign it, and then ship it wherever. But so they're $7,000.
Oh, that's a bargain.
Like $80, not including shipping. So it might. The problem is it's expensive for me to bring them to cons. So kind of the only way you're going to get them is if you buy it from me from home, because at least I don't have to ship it to a convention, and then if I don't sell them, I got to ship it back. So this way, I'll just
right,
and that'll be on my website next week.
Awesome. So yeah, and you ship it from your home.
Right.
You signed. Oh, that's great. I know a lot of collectors that would be interested in that.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, I mean, I think the most expensive thing here would be the shipping, because the rest, I mean, the figure. A lot of people are very like, oh no, this is a limited edition, when it's actually not.
Well, they stopped making these. They don't make the Greta's anymore. I only have 10.
Wow.
Or I have 12, but I'm keeping 2, so I'm only going to sell 10.
So you mean you have 9? See what I did there?
Yeah, I did. Yes. 9, and they're $1,000, and then there's one that's very special.
Oh my God! Only $1,000.
$1,000, and there's a special one with the name already on it. It's Toncho at Toro. That one's $7,000.
I'll give you $750 for them.
Deal.
Dude, I really appreciate you being here. I mean,
I love
we could be here for we never got to discuss RoboCop 2 and the things that you don't find on IMDb, the really
write a list of questions so neither of us forget it next time.
Nah, I don't like that. I once
what to talk about, because we end up just talking about anything.
That's the beauty of it. That's what I like. That's what I'm striving for. This is not an interview. I mean, you get interviewed a lot, and I've seen I've seen your interviews, and they're fun and everything. But what happens? And I'm trying to give something back to the people. I'm trying to give what I would like to see. And whenever I'm looking someone I look up to, I see 5, 6 interviews, and they're all the same questions, and they're all the same stories. And I think about the interviewer and like, do you even know who you're talking to? There's so much more you could discuss.
If I get asked what's my favorite Muppet, I'll punch somebody.
Exactly. And I've never asked that. I as you can see, I try to steer as far away from the Muppets and from Star Trek as I could.
Oh, I don't mind, but yeah, exactly. Like, if I've actually kind of slowed down on interviews because I keep saying if I had a new show, I'd love to do it, but just listen to the last 20 interviews, you're going to get probably most of your questions answered. But I know they're just trying to fill time too, because things are quiet right now, so I'm easily accessible.
No, actually, I've been meaning, and I told you last time we spoke, let's do this again sometime, and we didn't quite cover what a lot of things that I think about. I'm like, Kirk was in there, or Kirk might have something interesting to say about this, but it's not like I can call you up every 5 minutes and, hey, what's your take on this? But I think what I try to do, and I'm definitely going to cut all of this out. But what I try to do is to get to know the person and to talk about the things you like, not the things that you have to be asked about. Like last time we spoke, we talked about the curious creations of Kristen McCallum, and that was because I loved it and I wanted to talk about it, and I'm sure you loved it. I'm sure it was a great experience, but most of the times when you have a show coming out or things like that, that's your job. Like you're advertising the whatever you're on,
right?
But I like to talk about the things that you actually like that you actually enjoy, and that's why this time I strived more towards the director perspective and the creator perspective, because that's something that you're very good at. And you haven't quite talked much about it because people ask you about so how is Tom Holland like? Did he do the backflip you asked him to do? Like, and like it's so good. He is a punk on the bus, etc. He met Leonard Nimoy. There were kind of best friends at some point. One would argue Nimoy's fame is because of Kirk, but that's a conspiracy theory.
Nobody heard of Spock before.
Exactly. You made Spock happen.
I did.
Pretty much. But yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot more, and I really mean it when I say there's at least we're gonna be hearing about Kirk Thatcher for at least 30 more years.
Yes, when I kidnap the bus of school children and make them do my movie with no money. Act!
And that's going to be a success story.
They'll all become stars and be rich, and all because I kidnapped the school bus. Yeah.
The method? Well, this is the Thatcher. You kidnap a bunch of people
and make them. Actually, that's a great movie idea. This guy just can't get actors, so he kidnaps a bus of people and makes them act in his movie, and he lets them go. That's their release. It's like, okay, now I'm gonna, and the movie's a hit because he's crazy, and they all become celebrities, and he's in prison. There you go. We just brainstormed a great movie idea that's not expensive. It doesn't have creatures in it. Or maybe he makes one of them be a puppet.
Or maybe they're all puppets. Now that gets too expensive.
Yeah, too expensive. Much longer to shoot. I actually like this idea. I'm going to write this up.
It's yours, man. It's all yours.
Did you ever see Bowfinger? Steve Martin, Eddie Murphy?
No, I know it exists. I know I've heard it before, but
it's Steve Martin as this crazy filmmaker with no money, and Eddie Murphy's basically playing himself without being Eddie Murphy. He films him secretly doing things, and then gets a guy who looks like him to do scenes so he can make a movie starring Eddie Murphy, although it's mostly this guy who's like his double. And it's very silly, and Frank Oz directed it. But this is sort of
Frank Oz, Yoda.
Yoda, yeah, Miss Piggy and Fozzie. But it's sort of like that, but where he's really crazy and forces people to be in his movie. I like it. I like it.
You should do it as soon as this thing is over. As soon as people are allowed to get on buses.
Exactly.
You should kidnap a bus and get it made.
I'm gonna have a guy from Mexico named Pancho too, just so it's in honor of you.
I'm in.
I'll just have you play you. And you're like scared, and you're like, but I can make makeup effects. Great, you're the makeup department.
But I wouldn't have to be coerced,
Well, but that's what's funny. You're the one guy's like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
I was on a bus to LA to do this, so yeah, I'm in. See? We just brainstormed.
Movie magic in the making. Live. Awesome.
All right. Well, thanks, man.
All right.
Always fun.
No, thank you. I mean, really appreciative of your time, and I know you have a very busy schedule lately, and you need to travel a lot. And no, but well, doors always open. There will be more projects that you will be involved in, and you will want to plug, and you won't have to plug them because I'm going to be talking about them nonstop. And then we'll have, a conversation around how many awards it won, etc. But, I really enjoyed talking to you. I'm not going to talk about your social media, etc. because before this video comes up or this podcast episode comes up, I'm going to talk about all of this and really stressing the fact that now is the time to reach out to you and get things rolling. Not made, because you're not a producer. You're not going to call the shots, but if you want a really valuable perspective from someone who's been doing this for his, most of his life, then you want to talk to Kirk Thatcher and, talk about your ideas and creativity and whatnot. And if you want to, sign the Nene Consentido, you can also get that.
Sí, claro.
But yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, sir.
Buenas noches.
Buenas noches, sir.
Hasta luego.
Pues ahí lo tienen. Esa fue la plática que tuvimos con el señor Kirk Thatcher. Obviamente lo vamos a volver a invitar para hablar de esta nueva película de los Muppets y demás proyectos, etcétera, etcétera. Esperemos que no nos tome tanto tiempo el editar el video, pero por lo pronto, pues acuérdense, todas nuestras redes son @torofxstudio, esto es @torofxstudio. Yo soy Toncho Ábalos.
I'm Kirk Thatcher, and you can find me at kirkrthatcher.com, www.kirkrthatcher.com on the interwebs. You can also find me on Instagram, Kirk R. Thatcher, or Twitter, Kirk R. Thatcher. Y hasta el próximo llamado.
That was perfect.
Adios, amigos.
Cut. That's a wrap. I'm directing Kirk Thatcher. Suck on that, Muppets.
Instagram, Kirk R. Thatcher, or Twitter, Kirk R. Thatcher. Blah, blah, blah. Y hasta el próximo llamado.
That was kind of an Italian accent.
Exactly.
Y hasta el próximo llamado.
Llamado, Y hasta el próximo llamado. Mira. Esta noche en Los Ángeles.
I've learned my lesson.
Yeah.
I've learned my lesson. I didn't cut.
Wait! Oh! I gotta put my clothes back.
Okay.